A stormy night, a shattered car, a stranger's scream in the dark. He was just passing by, a broken man, haunted by the daughter he couldn't save. But when he heard that child's cry, everything changed. This is the story of a hero dad who risked everything to save a stranger's child, and found redemption in the most unexpected way. What happens next will stay with you forever. Rain hit the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists, and the wipers struggled to keep up. Jacob leaned forward, squinting through the downpour as the winding mountain road snaked ahead, dark and deserted. It was supposed to be a quick drive, flowers for Lily's grave and back before nightfall. But the storm had turned the world into a blur of water and shadow, and now even the engine seemed to hum with unease. The headlights cut a narrow path through the mist, revealing trees bent in the wind and the silver gleam of guardrails slick with rain. Then, suddenly, a screech, a sound not from his truck but from ahead. Tires skidding, metal shrieking, and then, nothing. Jacob's foot slammed the brake. The truck groaned to a halt. Silence, except for the relentless drumming of rain. He sat frozen for a beat, heart thudding in his ears, eyes locked on the road's curve where the sound had come from. Then he heard it. A scream. Small. High-pitched. A child. He was out of the truck in seconds, boots slamming into puddles as he sprinted toward the trees. The beam from his flashlight shook with each breath as he pushed through the underbrush. Down the embankment, barely visible through the mist, lay a mangled car, its front end wrapped around a tree, the back wheels still spinning in the mud. Jacob didn't hesitate. He slid down the slope, dirt and water caking his jeans, and reached the car. Steam hissed from the hood. The passenger side window was shattered, glass glinting like ice. He shined his light inside. A woman slumped over the wheel, blood running from a cut on her temple. Her chest rose and fell, shallow but alive. Then he saw her. In the back seat, a little girl, no older than 7, eyes wide and wild, hair plastered to her face. She was strapped in, tiny hands banging against the window. "Hey," Jacob called, voice calm despite the roar in his chest. "It's okay. I'm going to get you out." The girl didn't respond, just stared, shaking, her mouth moving but making no sound. Jacob reached for the door. Jammed. He braced his forearm against the window and drove his elbow into the glass. Once. Twice. The third hit shattered it, sending shards across the seat and into his skin. He ignored the pain, reached in, fumbled with the buckle until it clicked free. "I've got you," he whispered. She clung to him like a drowning swimmer, her arms locking around his neck as he pulled her free. Her sobs were quiet, breathless, the kind that hurt to hear. He carried her up the slope, careful not to slip, shielding her from the rain with his body. When he reached the truck, he wrapped her in the flannel from the passenger seat and turned back toward the wreck. The mother. Sirens wailed in the distance, but too far. Jacob ran back down, climbed inside the car through the shattered window, and checked her pulse. Faint. He gently leaned her back against the seat, careful not to move her neck, and wiped the blood from her eyes. "You hang in there," he muttered. The ambulance arrived minutes later, followed by a fire truck and a patrol car. EMTs took over, lifting the woman out on a stretcher, securing her neck. The girl, still wrapped in Jacob's flannel, refused to leave his side. An officer approached. "You the one who found them?" Jacob nodded. "You get them both out?" "No," he said. "Just the kid." The officer looked him over, mud-soaked, bleeding, his knuckles raw. "You okay?" Jacob didn't answer. Inside the ambulance, the girl reached out. Her fingers curled toward him like a plea. He stepped forward, took her hand. She squeezed tight. "Emily," she whispered. "My name's Emily." He crouched beside the stretcher. "Hi, Emily. You're safe now." She stared at him with trembling lips. Don't leave me. His throat closed. After the ambulance pulled away, Jacob sat in his truck, soaked to the bone, hands shaking. The scent of smoke and rain clung to his skin. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the crushed bouquet. Lilies, half of them ruined by water. His daughter's name had been Lily. 3 years ago, he'd buried her after a fire he couldn't stop. A fire he hadn't seen coming. That night had taken his daughter, his marriage, and the light from his world. Since then, he'd spoken few words and lived even fewer days that mattered. Until now. He started the engine. The road ahead was dark, but the storm was beginning to ease. Thunder rolled low, distant now. He could go home, sleep, forget. But as he turned the wheel, he saw something in the rearview mirror. Emily's eyes, desperate and clinging, staring back from memory. She hadn't cried for her mother. She'd cried for him. Jacob killed the engine. Sat there in the silence, fingers clenched on the wheel. A minute passed. Then 2. He stepped out into the rain. The hospital smelled like bleach and silence. Jacob hated both. He sat in a hard plastic chair outside the pediatric ICU, his hands wrapped in gauze, his shirt still damp from last night's storm. He hadn't planned to come. After he drove home, he told himself it wasn't his place. But sleep never came, and the girl's voice, "Are you coming?" kept echoing in his mind until dawn painted the sky in muted grief. A nurse passed, offering a tired smile. Jacob stood. The little girl. Emily. Is she okay? The nurse paused. Stable. Her legs broken, some bruised ribs, but she's tough. Won't stop asking for you. Jacob blinked. For me. She keeps calling you the man with the flashlight. Won't let anyone else near her. She leaned closer. You want to see her? He hesitated, then nodded. The room was small, too bright. Machines beeped steadily. Emily sat propped up in bed, one leg in a cast, clutching a stuffed bear the hospital must have given her. Her hair was tangled, her eyes rimmed red, but when she saw him, something lit up behind the pain. You came. Jacob swallowed. Told you I wouldn't leave. She motioned him over, and he sat beside the bed. Her fingers curled around his without asking. My mom's still sleeping, she whispered. Is she gonna die? No, Jacob said gently. She's strong, like you. Emily stared at his bandaged hands. Your arms are hurt. They'll heal. She was quiet for a long moment. My dad left when I was 3. Mom says he didn't want to be a dad anymore. Jacob's jaw tightened. Then he didn't know what he had. Silence stretched again. Emily broke it. Will you stay until she wakes up? I'll stay, Jacob said, before his heart had time to argue. Hours passed. He sat there while she drifted in and out of sleep. Nurses came and went. No one questioned him. He looked like he belonged, maybe because she believed he did. Late that afternoon, a doctor approached. Middle-aged, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. You're the man who found them? Jacob stood. Yes. She's lucky. A few more minutes, and that fire could have spread. Her mother, Rebecca, suffered a head injury, but we're hopeful. No internal bleeding, just a concussion and a cracked rib. She's sedated, but stable. Can I see her? The doctor glanced at his chart, then nodded. Briefly, Jacob stepped into the room next door. Rebecca lay pale and still beneath crisp sheets. A monitor beeped softly beside her. Even unconscious, her face carried lines of pain. He stood there, unsure what to feel. She wasn't his wife. She wasn't Lily. But something tugged at him anyway. He spoke, almost a whisper. Your daughter's safe. Brave little thing. She's waiting for you. He left before it got too heavy. Back in the hallway, a woman in a blazer waited with a clipboard. Late 40s, with keen eyes and an air of polite authority. Mr. Granger? She asked. Yes. I'm Claire Hastings. Child Protective Services. I understand you've been with the child since last night. I pulled her from the wreck. Stayed until she calmed down. She's formed an attachment, Claire said, flipping through papers. Unusual, but not unheard of in trauma cases. Jacob said nothing. With her mother still unconscious and no immediate relatives on file, we'll need to place Emily in emergency foster care until the mother recovers. Jacob's pulse thudded. She doesn't want to go with strangers. I understand, but I'll take care of her. Just until her mother wakes up. Claire studied him. Do you have children? I did, he said quietly. She passed. House fire. 3 years ago. She softened, just slightly. I'm sorry. So am I. Mr. Granger, this isn't simple. You're not family. And given your history. Jacob's eyes sharpened. What history? Claire hesitated. You were the responding firefighter to your own house fire. The loss of a child, unresolved grief, isolation. It raises concerns about emotional stability. I'm not unstable. I'm grieving. And now you're emotionally involved with a child who resembles your daughter. Jacob looked away, jaw clenched. Claire sighed. I'm not saying no. I'm saying we need to evaluate. Background check. Home visit. If everything checks out, we may approve a temporary guardianship. He nodded. Do it fast. She left with a promise to follow up. That night, Jacob stood in the guest room of his modest home, staring at the dusty rocking chair in the corner. It had been Lily's. Everything in this room was hers, untouched, as if she might walk in at any moment. He turned on the light, took a breath, then opened the closet. The next morning, Emily entered his house holding his hand, her cast wrapped in plastic. She looked around with wide eyes. You have toys. Somewhere. He led her to the old nursery. It was spotless now. Fresh sheets. Her favorite color, a soft lavender, thrown into the curtains. Emily looked up at him. Is this mine? For as long as you need it. She smiled, slow and tired. I like it here. Jacob knelt. Emily, I'm not trying to replace anyone. I just want to help. She hugged him, arms tight around his neck. You're not replacing anyone, she said. You're saving me. And for the first time in 3 years, Jacob let himself cry. The alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., but Jacob had already been awake for an hour. Not because of nightmares this time, but because a 6-year-old had snuck into his bed sometime after midnight, her small hand curled into his. Her presence was a warm weight, anchoring him to a world he thought he'd given up on. The sun poured through the blinds, and Emily stirred. Do we have to get up? He smiled. If you want pancakes, we do. That got her moving. They sat at the small kitchen table, eating in comfortable silence. Emily swung her legs beneath the chair, eyes drifting toward the calendar on the fridge. Is it almost my birthday? She asked, syrup smeared across her chin. Next week. Mom always bakes a strawberry cake. Jacob nodded. Then that's what we'll do. At school drop-off, Emily clung to his hand longer than usual. Are you going to be here when I get back? I always am. She looked unsure. Promise. I promise. As she walked inside, backpack bouncing, Jacob exhaled slowly. He hadn't made that kind of promise since Lily, and he hadn't meant one this much in years. Back home, he stood in the nursery, now fully transformed for Emily. He'd painted over the fading pink walls, added new shelves and a stuffed animal or two. It was her room now, not a shrine. Claire from CPS called later that afternoon. We've reviewed everything, she said. Background's clean. Home visit passed. Rebecca signed a temporary guardianship form yesterday. You're officially cleared to care for Emily. Jacob leaned against the counter. Thank you. One more thing, Claire added. Rebecca's making steady progress. Should be discharged in a few days. Jacob nodded, but didn't respond. When Emily came home, she burst through the door with a crayon drawing. That's you, she said, pointing to a stick figure in a fireman's helmet. And me. And the cake. Can we bake it today? Tomorrow. I promise. But promises were tricky things. That evening, he opened the front door to find a man standing on the porch. Tall, early 40s, clean cut, but with an edge beneath the polished look. Can I help you? Jacob asked, shielding the doorway. I'm looking for Rebecca Lane. I heard she was in an accident. I'm her ex-husband. Jacob stiffened. She's recovering. I figured. Thought I'd stop by. Catch up. See my daughter. You're the father. Biologically, sure. Haven't been around. But I have rights. Jacob didn't step aside. Not anymore. Court stripped you of them 2 years ago. The man's jaw clenched. She doesn't get to keep my kid from me. You already did that yourself. The man leaned forward. You think just because the girl clings to you, you're a hero? You're not her dad. Jacob's hands curled into fists. No, he said. But I didn't walk away. The man smirked. We'll see what the court thinks. The next few days unraveled fast. Rebecca was released from the hospital, still pale, but walking. She moved in temporarily, grateful, but distant. The tension in the house grew. 2 people trying to share space while parenting a child who didn't know what normal looked like anymore. Then the court papers arrived. Emily's father was filing for custody. Jacob paced the porch, papers in hand, mind racing. Rebecca sat silently on the swing, her eyes hollow. I thought we were safe, she whispered. He's not doing this for her, Jacob said. He's doing it to win. I know. She looked up. Do you regret it? Taking her in. He shook his head. I regret not doing more sooner. That night, Emily asked the question Jacob had feared since day one. If I go live with him, will you forget me? He knelt by her bed. I could never forget you. But I'm not your daughter. Jacob's voice cracked. You are in every way that matters. Emily wrapped her arms around his neck. Then can I call you Dad? He froze. 3 years ago, that word was a wound. Now it was a lifeline. You can, he whispered. Whenever you're ready. She smiled, closed her eyes, and drifted to sleep. In the hallway, Jacob found Rebecca watching. She needs stability, she said. He'll ruin her. Then we fight. He spent the next day gathering every document he had. Photos, medical records, affidavits from teachers. Even a letter from Claire, praising the environment he'd built. But paperwork wasn't the only challenge. At school, Emily became quieter. Withdrawn. She didn't ask for pancakes anymore. Rebecca noticed too. He's getting to her. Through the court, through the system. Jacob rubbed his eyes. He knows how to use fear. That night, he cleaned the nursery again, finding one of Lily's old drawings tucked behind a bookshelf. A fire truck. The word hero scrawled underneath in wobbly letters. He held it for a long time. The next morning, Jacob dressed in the suit he hadn't worn since Lily's funeral. As he buttoned the cuffs, his hands trembled, but not from fear. From the weight of what this meant. They arrived at the courthouse just after 9 a.m. Emily clutched Rebecca's hand, her eyes darting. Jacob walked beside them, silent but present. Inside the courtroom, her father smirked from across the aisle. Jacob met his stare without blinking. He would fight, not because he had to, but because she deserved someone who would. The courtroom was quiet, too quiet. Not the kind of silence that brought peace, but the kind that tightened around your chest like a rope. Jacob sat straight in the witness chair, palms sweating beneath the weight of a dozen expectant eyes. Across the room, Emily's biological father leaned back smugly, arms folded, like he'd already won. The judge adjusted her glasses. Mr. Granger, please tell the court your relationship to the child. He took a breath. I pulled her from a wreck. I didn't know her. But I knew that look in her eyes, fear, pain, confusion. I'd seen it before, on my daughter's face the day she died. A ripple of quiet filled the room. I didn't save Lily. I wasn't fast enough. But Emily, she clung to me like I was her only chance. And I stayed, not out of guilt, but because it felt like something I was meant to do. The judge nodded slowly. And your involvement since? I've been with her every day since. I feed her, I take her to school, I help her sleep when the nightmares come. She calls me Dad now, and I'd do anything to protect her. The opposing attorney stood. Mr. Granger, isn't it true you suffer from trauma related to the death of your own child? That you've refused professional counseling? Jacob's voice didn't waver. I buried my grief with silence. I didn't think I deserved peace. But this little girl, she pulled me out of that darkness. She didn't just need me. I needed her. He stepped down. Rebecca testified next. Her voice shook, but her spine stayed straight. He didn't just rescue my daughter from that car. He gave her back her smile. He showed her what a real father looks like. The opposing side pressed her. So you believe he's better suited than the child's biological father? Rebecca didn't flinch. I believe he's the only father she's ever truly had. Still, the decision wasn't immediate. The judge requested time to investigate, to interview Emily again. Jacob sat in the waiting room outside, staring at the wall as if he could burn through it with sheer will. Rebecca sat beside him, arms folded tight. No words left, just waiting. Then the call came. A fire had broken out at the temporary group home where Emily was staying during the investigation. Jacob didn't hear the rest. He was already out the door. He drove like the road was breaking beneath him. Wind howled past the open windows. Smoke curled into the sky ahead like a signal flare from hell. By the time he reached the scene, 2 fire engines were already parked out front. Sirens blared. Parents cried. And the home burned. Jacob ran straight toward the tape. "Hey!" a firefighter shouted, recognizing him. "Jacob, wait. There are still kids inside, but the second floor is too unstable. Emily's in there." "You don't know that for sure." "I do." No one stopped him. Maybe because they knew better. Maybe because they saw what he had in his eyes, something wild and desperate and immovable. Smoke swallowed him whole. Inside, the heat was unbearable. Flames licked at the staircase as he bounded 2 steps at a time. Voices called out, children, coughing, crying. One door was jammed. He kicked it open. Emily sat in the corner, covering her face. 2 other kids huddled beside her. "It's me," Jacob said. "It's Dad. Come on." She ran to him without hesitation. He scooped up all 3, one under each arm, one hanging onto his back, and sprinted down the hall just as a beam gave way behind him. Smoke burned his lungs. His legs screamed. But he didn't stop. Outside, the crowd gasped as Jacob stumbled out, coughing, his shirt scorched, face blackened. He laid the kids down one by one, collapsing beside them. Emily curled into his arms as the medics rushed forward. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. The story went viral within hours. Asterisk. Man who lost daughter saves another in house fire. Asterisk. Photos of Jacob carrying children from smoke-filled rooms flooded social media. News anchors called him a hero. But he didn't care. He only cared about the girl sleeping peacefully in the hospital bed beside him. A week later, the judge's ruling came in. Rebecca was granted full custody, and Jacob, by her request and the court's agreement, was named Emily's legal guardian. In the judge's words, "There is no bond more sacred than the one earned in fire, in love, and in sacrifice. Biology cannot rival devotion." That night, Jacob sat on the back porch, Emily curled beside him beneath a blanket. Crickets sang in the distance. The stars above were clear, endless. "Dad," she said, voice sleepy. "Yeah." "Do you think Lily would have liked me?" Jacob swallowed hard. "She would have loved you." Emily nodded, satisfied. "Me too." The porch light hummed gently behind them. A family, formed from ashes, not broken, but reborn.